The success of the pilot program in sub-Saharan Africa had far exceeded expectations. The platform was being embraced by students and teachers alike, and the results were impressive. Students were learning faster, engaging more deeply with the content, and showing a renewed passion for education. But as the platform began to grow, so did the challenges. Scaling a global educational initiative wasn't easy. While the team was thrilled with the positive results in the pilot countries, they quickly realized that the path to broader implementation was filled with obstacles they hadn't anticipated. The technical infrastructure was one of the first challenges. The platform's backend had been built to handle a moderate amount of traffic, but as more schools joined the program, the system began to experience delays and occasional outages. It became clear that they needed to upgrade their servers and improve the platform's scalability to keep up with the increasing demand. Maya, the technical mastermind of the team, worked tirelessly to address these issues. "We need to optimize our code and expand our infrastructure to handle the traffic," she said, her brow furrowed as she examined the data. "We can't afford to have the system crash during lessons." Ethan knew this was crucial. The last thing they needed was for the platform to be unreliable, especially now that it had become such an essential tool for so many students. So, while Maya and the technical team worked on the back end, Ethan focused on ensuring the platform's content remained relevant and engaging. At the same time, the growing scope of the initiative meant more coordination was required. Governments, local organizations, and international agencies all needed to be kept in the loop. As partnerships expanded, the team found themselves juggling countless meetings, calls, and agreements. It was an exciting but exhausting time, and with every success came new expectations and pressure to do more, faster. To help manage this growth, the team decided to bring in a few new members with expertise in project management, logistics, and community outreach. This allowed them to focus on what they did best, building the platform and ensuring its quality, while others took on the increasing demands of expansion. One of the most difficult challenges, however, wasn't technical or logistical. It was ensuring that the platform's content remained culturally relevant across the diverse regions where it was being used. In some areas, particularly in remote or rural locations, the curriculum needed to be adjusted to fit the specific needs of the community. For example, in some regions, students had limited exposure to technology and needed more foundational lessons on digital literacy. In others, the educational system was structured differently, requiring adaptations in how lessons were delivered. To address these challenges, Ethan and Maya took a trip to India, where the platform was being tested in several rural schools. While the platform was successful in urban areas, the rural schools faced unique obstacles. Many students had little to no experience with computers or the internet, and teachers were often overwhelmed by large class sizes and limited resources. When they arrived, they were greeted by Ria, a local educator who had been helping to implement the platform in her village school. "It's a wonderful tool," Ria said, "but there are some things we need to adjust to make it work here. The children have never used computers before. We need to teach them the basics." Ethan and Maya spent several days visiting schools in the area, observing lessons and speaking with teachers and students. They learned that while the students were excited to use the platform, many struggled with even the most basic functions. The solution wasn't to change the platform, but to provide additional training for both teachers and students. The team began developing tutorials and supplementary materials focused on digital literacy, which could be used to teach students how to navigate the platform before diving into the actual lessons. "It's about making sure they're ready," Maya said as she worked on the new training materials. "If we want them to benefit from the platform, we need to build their confidence with technology first." The feedback from the schools in India helped the team refine their approach. They began developing customized onboarding processes for different regions, taking into account the local challenges and needs. This included adding offline capabilities for areas with limited internet access, designing localized content that reflected cultural contexts, and providing training programs for both students and teachers on how to use the platform effectively. As the team worked to adapt the platform to different regions, they also began receiving more requests for partnerships. Governments from all over the world wanted to integrate the platform into their national education systems. The momentum was building, but it was clear that the team needed to expand their efforts if they wanted to meet the growing demand. The pressure was mounting. "We're reaching a tipping point," Maya said one evening. "We're getting more requests than we can handle. If we don't scale quickly, we'll lose out on these opportunities." Ethan agreed. "We need more resources, more people, and a clear strategy for how we scale without compromising quality. This is the moment we've been working for. We can't afford to drop the ball." To tackle these challenges, they decided to launch a fundraising campaign to raise the necessary capital to scale the platform. They reached out to philanthropic organizations, tech companies, and individual donors who believed in the power of education. The campaign was a success, raising millions of dollars that would be used to expand the team, improve the technology, and continue developing new content. Despite the financial success, the pressure to meet the growing demand continued to weigh heavily on Ethan and the team. The sense of urgency was palpable. They were on the verge of something huge, but they also knew that the road ahead would be filled with difficult decisions and tough sacrifices. The platform had the potential to change the world, but only if they could manage the rapid growth and ensure that they remained true to their mission. One evening, as Ethan sat alone in his office, he thought about how far they had come. He remembered the early days when the platform was just an idea on a piece of paper. Back then, they had no idea what they were getting into. They had no idea how many lives they would touch, how many challenges they would face, or how much they would learn along the way. But now, sitting in the quiet of the office, he felt a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They were no longer just a small startup with a big idea. They were a global movement, a force for change in the world of education. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, they were ready to face them together. With the successful launch of the platform in multiple regions and the newly forged partnerships with governments and educational organizations, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were more confident than ever that they were on the right path, but they also knew the work was far from finished. Ethan and the team were invited to an international conference on education in Berlin, where thought leaders, innovators, and policymakers from around the world gathered to discuss the future of education. The invitation was a significant recognition of their work, and the conference would provide an opportunity to showcase the platform to a global audience. The night before the conference, Ethan sat in his hotel room, preparing for the speech he was about to give. The weight of the responsibility on his shoulders felt heavier than ever. This was a pivotal moment, an opportunity to inspire the world, to show that there was a way forward, a way to solve the global education crisis. Maya knocked on the door. "Ethan, you ready for tomorrow?" she asked, stepping inside. Ethan sighed, running his fingers through his hair. "I don't know if I'm ready. I feel like there's so much at stake here. If we do this right, it could change everything for the platform. If we do it wrong..." Maya smiled reassuringly. "You've already done so much, Ethan. The platform is a success. Because of your vision, this speech is just the next step. You'll do great." Ethan smiled faintly. "I hope so." The next morning, they arrived at the conference hall, which was buzzing with energy. Hundreds of educators, technologists, and policymakers milled about, discussing the future of education and the role of technology. The atmosphere was electric, with a palpable sense of anticipation hanging in the air. As Ethan and Maya made their way to the stage, they could hear the excited chatter in the crowd. The keynote speakers had already set a high bar, discussing topics like artificial intelligence in education, the role of social media in learning, and the potential of data-driven teaching methods. Ethan knew the stakes were high. He had to make sure the platform stood out among all the other innovations being discussed. When it was finally his turn, Ethan stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces. His heart raced, but he took a deep breath and began speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Ethan Brooks, and I'm here to talk about a platform that has the potential to transform the way we think about education, particularly for the millions of children who have been left behind by traditional systems. He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. Every day across the globe, children face unimaginable challenges: poverty, displacement, political unrest. But they also face an incredible challenge: the lack of access to quality education. This is a crisis, and it's one we can't ignore. Ethan's voice grew more passionate as he spoke, his words filled with conviction. We've spent the past few years working in refugee camps, in rural villages, in cities where children are forced to learn in overcrowded classrooms. What we've seen is heartbreaking, but it's also been a call to action, because we believe that education is not just a privilege, it's a right. He looked down at his notes, but then decided to speak from the heart. We've created a platform that can provide every child with the opportunity to learn, no matter where they are, no matter what their circumstances. But this isn't just about technology. It's about hope. It's about giving children the tools they need to change their futures. The room was silent, every person listening intently. Ethan knew that this was his moment to make a difference, to share the platform's vision with the world. He felt a surge of adrenaline as he continued. We've seen the impact of our platform in refugee camps, in rural communities, and in schools around the world. We've seen children who were once unable to read or write now flourishing, thanks to the access they have to personalized learning. But we're not done yet. We can't stop here. The need is still great, and we need to do more. He paused, letting his words sink in. Today, I'm asking all of you, educators, policymakers, innovators, and leaders, to join us. This is more than just a platform. It's a movement. Together, we can change the future of education. Together, we can ensure that every child, no matter their background, has access to the education they deserve. The applause that followed was overwhelming. It wasn't just polite applause, it was genuine. People were on their feet, clapping, jeering, and some even wiping away tears. Ethan had struck a chord, not just with his words, but with the very heart of the issue. As the applause died down, Ethan knew that the moment had passed, but the journey was just beginning. He and the team were no longer just innovators. They were leaders in a global movement for educational equity. After the speech, Ethan was approached by several key figures in the education sector, including representatives from major international organizations, governments, and philanthropic foundations. They were eager to learn more about the platform and discuss ways to collaborate. The momentum was building, and the future looked brighter than ever. But with this newfound attention came even more pressure. Ethan knew that they had to act fast, to capitalize on the moment while it was still fresh in people's minds. He was already thinking ahead, considering how they could expand the platform to reach even more children, how they could integrate new technologies, and how they could work with more governments to make sure that education wasn't just a luxury for the few, but a right for all. Later that evening, as the conference wrapped up, Ethan sat with Maya and Sophia in a quiet corner of the conference hall. They were exhausted but exhilarated. "This is it," Maya said. "This is the breakthrough we've been waiting for." Ethan smiled. "Yes, but it's just the beginning. We've got a long way to go. We've shown the world what's possible, but now we have to prove that we can make it happen on a global scale." Sophia nodded. "We're ready. We've built the foundation. Now we just need to keep building." As the team left the conference, the weight of their mission pressed down on them even more. The world was watching, and they had a responsibility to deliver. But with the momentum they had gained and the support they were receiving, Ethan knew they could rise to the challenge. The success of Ethan's speech at the international conference sent ripples through the global education community. Invitations poured in from all corners of the world. Government officials, educational organizations, and private sector partners were eager to collaborate, eager to be a part of the movement that Ethan had so passionately introduced. The platform's potential seemed limitless, and the team was ready to take it to the next level. However, with new opportunities came new challenges. The excitement was palpable, but so was the pressure. Scaling the platform globally required more resources, more infrastructure, and more coordination than ever before. The team was spread thin, and there was a sense of urgency to meet the growing demand without losing sight of the platform's core mission: to provide equitable education to every child, regardless of location or background. Ethan and Maya held a meeting with the leadership team to discuss their strategy for scaling. They had already received pledges from several large donors, including a major philanthropic foundation that was committed to supporting education in underdeveloped countries. But funding, while important, was only one piece of the puzzle. They needed a robust plan for expanding their reach without compromising quality. "We've reached a critical point," Ethan said as he looked around the table. "We have the funding, we have the partnerships, but we need to make sure that the platform can handle this scale. We need a strategy to build our infrastructure, our team, and our local support networks." Maya nodded. "We also need to think about the local context. The platform needs to be adaptable to different regions, cultures, and languages. It's not just about translating the content, it's about making sure it resonates with students in every corner of the globe." The team spent the next several weeks working tirelessly on a plan. They focused on 3 key areas: technology, community engagement, and partnerships. Technology. The first priority was to upgrade the platform's back-end. They had already seen issues with server performance as the user base expanded, and they knew that scaling up would require a more robust infrastructure. Maya worked with the technical team to develop a new system architecture that would be able to handle millions of simultaneous users without crashing. They also worked on developing offline capabilities for regions with unreliable internet access, ensuring that the platform could still be used in remote areas where connectivity was sparse. Community engagement. With the platform's success came a responsibility to ensure that it truly served the communities it aimed to help. The team focused on building strong local partnerships with schools, teachers, and community leaders. They established a network of regional coordinators who could help implement the platform in different areas, providing training and support for both teachers and students. The goal was to create a community of learners who were not just using the platform, but were actively engaged in shaping how it was used. Partnerships. The team also worked on expanding their network of institutional partners. They began collaborating with governments, educational ministries, and NGOs to integrate the platform into national curricula. The idea was to make the platform a part of the official education system, so that it would reach not just the children who had access to technology, but all children, regardless of their circumstances. As the platform began to expand, Ethan traveled to several countries to personally oversee the implementation process. His first stop was in Kenya, where the government had expressed interest in incorporating the platform into their national education system. The Kenyan education minister, Amina Kofi, had invited him to visit a school in the capital city, Nairobi, to see firsthand how the platform was being used. When Ethan arrived at the school, he was greeted by Amina and a group of teachers who had been using the platform for the past few months. The school was located in a bustling neighborhood, and the classrooms were filled with students eager to learn. "This is one of our success stories," Amina said, leading Ethan into a classroom where students were working on laptops. "We've seen a significant improvement in student engagement and academic performance since we started using the platform." Ethan observed the students as they worked, noticing how focused and engaged they were. It was clear that the platform was making a difference, but as he spoke with the teachers, they expressed some concerns. "We love the platform, but there are some challenges," said David, a teacher at the school. "Many of our students come from low-income families, and they don't always have reliable access to the internet. Sometimes the platform doesn't load, or it takes too long to load, and we lose valuable teaching time." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. We've been working on improving offline functionality, and we'll make sure to prioritize that for schools like yours, he assured them. The conversation turned to curriculum integration. Amina expressed her desire for the platform to be integrated into the national curriculum so that every student in Kenya would have access to it. Ethan knew that this was a critical step. If the platform could become part of the official curriculum, it would ensure that it reached the widest possible audience. We'll need to work closely with the Ministry of Education to make that happen, Amina said. But I believe it's possible. Your platform can be the key to transforming education in Kenya. After the visit, Ethan felt energized. The positive feedback from teachers and students in Kenya was a testament to the impact the platform was already having. But he also understood that there was still much work to be done. The road to full integration into national education systems would be long and complex, and there would be many more challenges along the way. But the vision was clear. If they could get the platform into the hands of every student, it would change the educational landscape forever. The next stop on Ethan's journey was Brazil, where the platform had already been introduced to several schools in underserved communities. The feedback was similar. Students were thriving, but there were challenges with internet access and the need for localized content. In Brazil, Ethan met with local educators and government officials, discussing how the platform could be adapted to fit the country's unique educational needs. They focused on developing content in Portuguese and also on creating materials that were relevant to Brazilian culture and history. The goal was to make sure that students in Brazil felt a personal connection to the lessons they were learning. Through these experiences, Ethan came to understand that scaling the platform wasn't just about technology. It was about creating a global network of educators, students, and communities who were all invested in the platform's success. It was about building relationships, adapting to local needs, and ensuring that every child, no matter where they lived, had access to a high-quality education. Back at the headquarters, the team continued to work around the clock to refine the platform, expand its reach, and ensure that it was meeting the needs of students and educators worldwide. The next few months would be critical, as the team worked to integrate the platform into more national education systems and develop partnerships with key stakeholders in the education space. But one thing was clear: the vision was becoming a reality. The platform was no longer just a tool for learning. It was a movement that was shaping the future of education for generations to come. As the platform expanded, the team faced challenges that tested their resilience and determination. With each new region they entered, the obstacles grew more complex, but so did their resolve to overcome them. The positive feedback from teachers and students worldwide provided motivation, but there were times when the technical issues, logistical hurdles, and cultural differences felt overwhelming. In the midst of these challenges, Ethan received a troubling call from Maya. "Ethan, we've hit a major roadblock in India," she said, her voice strained. "The platform's rollout in the rural regions is not going as planned. There's a significant gap in access to the necessary technology. Even with our offline capabilities, many of the schools are facing issues with the devices themselves. They're outdated, and some don't even have basic electricity." Ethan listened intently, feeling a knot form in his stomach. India was one of the largest potential markets for the platform, and the success there was critical to their global strategy. They had received significant funding to expand into the region, and the team had worked tirelessly to develop culturally relevant content in multiple languages. But the reality on the ground was proving to be more challenging than they had anticipated. "Can't let this derail everything we've worked for," Maya continued. "I'm meeting with the local partners tomorrow to see what we can do, but I wanted to keep you updated. This is a major setback." Ethan took a deep breath. "We've faced setbacks before. We'll figure this out. Let's keep pushing forward, but also reassess how we approach these rural areas. We need to find sustainable solutions that go beyond just providing content." The next day, Maya and Ethan met virtually to discuss the situation in more detail. After reviewing the reports from the field, They identified several key issues that needed to be addressed. Infrastructure. Many schools lacked basic facilities like electricity and reliable internet. Some rural areas had no access to the grid, making it impossible to use the platform effectively, even with offline functionality. Technology. The devices used by students in these areas were outdated, with slow processors and limited storage. Even the best-designed platforms could struggle. With old hardware, and some schools had no devices at all, training and support. In many remote areas, teachers were unfamiliar with digital platforms and lacked the training to effectively integrate the platform into their lessons. While the platform was intuitive, the absence of proper training and ongoing support meant that many teachers were not using it to its full potential. Ethan knew that these challenges were not insurmountable. They had to rethink their approach and come up with creative solutions that would allow the platform to reach the children who needed it most. They couldn't abandon the mission, but they had to adapt. Maya suggested they explore partnerships with local organizations that could help bridge the gap in infrastructure. What if we worked with NGOs that focus on providing solar-powered devices for remote areas? That way, even schools without reliable electricity could still have access to the platform. Ethan liked the idea. We could also look into collaborating with local governments to help subsidize the cost of devices for schools. Maybe there are grant opportunities or public-private partnerships we can tap into. They also discussed the need for more targeted training programs for teachers. We should create a series of short, localized training videos that teachers can watch offline, Maya said. That way they can learn at their own pace, and we won't need to rely on live training sessions. Ethan agreed. Let's do it. We'll need to set up a team specifically focused on India, working closely with local partners to understand the unique challenges in these regions. We'll need to be flexible and creative. As they continued to brainstorm, Ethan felt a sense of determination growing within him. This was exactly why he had started the platform in the first place, to tackle the hardest challenges and make education accessible to all. The road ahead was going to be tough, but he was confident they could find solutions. A few weeks later, Maya and a small team traveled to India to meet with local NGOs, educational ministries, and community leaders. Their goal was to form a network of partners who could help bring the platform to the most underserved areas. One of the key partners they met with was Sunita Rao, a leader in the solar-powered technology space, who had been working for years to bring renewable energy solutions to rural India. We've been providing solar-powered tablets to remote villages for a while now, Sunita explained. Many of these villages have no access to electricity, but they still need to be connected to the world. Your platform could be the perfect fit. Maya was intrigued. How do the devices work in these areas? Are they reliable? Sunita nodded. The solar tablets are designed to work in the toughest conditions. We've partnered with local schools and NGOs to provide training and support, so the tablets aren't just distributed, they're used effectively. I think this could be a game changer for your platform. The team quickly saw the potential of this partnership. With Sunita's help, they could ensure that the platform was accessible even in the most remote areas, where traditional technology solutions simply wouldn't work. The solar-powered devices would provide the infrastructure needed to make the platform functional in rural regions, and Sunita's network of partners could help with the logistics of distribution and training. Maya and Sunita worked together to map out a plan for distributing the tablets and providing ongoing support to teachers. They decided to launch a pilot program in a small rural region of India, where the platform would be tested in schools with limited access to technology. The goal was to gather data, refine their approach, and determine how best to scale the solution. When the pilot program launched, the results were promising. Schools that had previously struggled with technology access began using the platform effectively, and students were showing remarkable progress. Teachers were engaged, and the content was resonating with the students. The solar-powered tablets provided the necessary infrastructure, and the training videos were helping teachers integrate the platform into their classrooms. After a few months, the program's success was undeniable. The platform was making a tangible difference in the lives of students who had previously been left behind. Ethan and the team knew that they had found a solution that could be replicated in other parts of the world, and they began planning for the next phase of their global rollout. While there were still many challenges to overcome, Ethan felt a renewed sense of optimism. The setbacks they had faced in India had pushed them to think creatively and to form partnerships that would not only solve the immediate problem, but also strengthen the platform's long-term sustainability. The road to scaling the platform was not going to be easy, but with every challenge, they were learning, adapting, and moving closer to their goal of providing quality education to every child. The success of the pilot program in India marked a turning point for the platform. What had once seemed like an insurmountable challenge had now become a model for expansion. The solar-powered tablet solution was proving to be an effective way to overcome infrastructure limitations, and the teachers' engagement with the training program showed that the platform was not only viable, but also deeply impactful in areas previously left out of the digital education revolution. As the team celebrated the success of the Indian pilot, new opportunities were emerging across the globe. The momentum was building. Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Indonesia expressed interest in similar projects, and the team felt that the model they had developed in India could be replicated in other countries with similar challenges. The next steps were clear. Ethan and Maya needed to take what they had learned and scale it to new regions, ensuring that the lessons from India were applied carefully and thoughtfully in each new context. But even as they looked ahead, they had to pause and reflect on the journey that had brought them here. The platform had come a long way since its early days, and they needed to ensure that they stayed grounded in their mission while pushing the boundaries of what was possible. It was during one of these reflective moments that Ethan received an unexpected call from his old friend, Martin Holden, a philanthropist who had been following the platform's progress from afar. Martin had supported numerous educational initiatives over the years, but what he was seeing with Ethan's platform was different. He called Ethan to offer his congratulations and to ask how he could help take the platform to the next level. "I've been reading about your success in India," Martin said over the phone. "I'm impressed with how you're making a real difference, but I know you've got bigger plans. What's next?" Ethan smiled, knowing that Martin was always thinking several steps ahead. "We're looking at expanding into more countries, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Indonesia, and others. But we've learned that every region has its own unique challenges, and we want to make sure we adapt accordingly. We're going to need additional support to make this happen, both financially and logistically." "I'm in," Martin said without hesitation. "I've been looking for an initiative that has the potential to truly change the world, and I believe yours does. Let's talk about how we can scale this globally. I'll help fund the next phase of expansion." Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. With Martin's financial backing and the continued support of their other partners, the platform's future looked brighter than ever. They now had the resources to scale quickly while maintaining the quality and sustainability of their efforts. But scaling wasn't just about money. It was about creating a global network of educators, students, and communities who were committed to the platform's mission of equitable education for all. In the coming months, the team worked tirelessly to refine their expansion strategy. They focused on understanding the unique needs of each new region they were entering. This meant not only tailoring the content and technology to fit local contexts, but also building relationships with governments, educational ministries, and local community leaders who could help ensure the platform's success. One of the first stops on their new global expansion journey was Ethiopia. The country had made significant strides in improving access to education in recent years, but rural areas still faced many challenges. With limited access to electricity and a shortage of trained teachers, Ethiopia was a country where the platform could have a transformative impact. Maya, along with a small team of engineers and project managers, flew to Addis Ababa to meet with local stakeholders. They were greeted by Leila Meles, the Minister of Education, who had heard about the platform's success in India and was eager to explore how it could be implemented in Ethiopia's schools. "We've made progress in providing education to more children, but the challenges are still vast," Layla explained during their meeting. "In rural areas, access to technology is a major hurdle. If we can find a way to bridge that gap, we could leap forward in our education system." Maya shared the success of the Indian pilot program and explained the concept of using solar-powered tablets as a solution. Layla was immediately interested, but she raised a critical point. "While technology is crucial, we cannot forget the importance of local context," Layla said. "We need to ensure that the platform is culturally relevant and tailored to our educational goals. We have a unique history, a unique language, and a diverse set of challenges. Your platform must speak to that." Ethan had anticipated this, and the team had already begun developing a plan for localized content. In Ethiopia, that meant translating lessons into Amharic and other local languages, and incorporating the country's history and culture into the curriculum. They also needed to ensure that the platform aligned with Ethiopia's educational priorities, such as promoting literacy and numeracy in rural areas. Ethan and Maya worked closely with Layla and her team to develop a plan for integrating the platform into Ethiopia's schools. They decided to pilot the platform in several rural regions, focusing on schools that lacked basic infrastructure. The solar-powered tablets would serve as the backbone of the program, and a network of local coordinators would provide training and ongoing support to teachers. As the pilot program launched, Maya traveled to some of the schools to observe the students' progress firsthand. In a remote school located in the northern part of the country, she saw firsthand the difference the platform was making. The classroom was small, with just a few desks and a chalkboard. But the students were working intently on their solar-powered tablets, learning math, reading, and science. Their eyes were bright with curiosity, and the teachers were eager to incorporate the platform into their lessons. "I never thought this would be possible," said one teacher, named Selim, as she watched the students work. "We've never had such access to educational resources before. The students are more engaged than I've ever seen them." Maya was deeply moved by the success of the pilot, but she also understood that scaling in Ethiopia would take time and effort. They needed to work closely with the government to ensure the platform's integration into the national curriculum, and they needed to build a strong support network to ensure long-term sustainability. In the months that followed, the program in Ethiopia grew steadily. Local partnerships were forged, and the platform began to reach more schools. The solar-powered tablets became a symbol of hope for many students, providing them with the tools they needed to succeed. The success in Ethiopia served as a model for other countries in Africa. As the team continued to expand, they focused on adapting the platform to fit each region's unique needs, while remaining true to their mission of providing high-quality education to every child, everywhere. Ethan often found himself reflecting on the journey. The platform had started as an idea, a vision for a better future, but now it was a global movement, a movement that was changing lives, one child at a time. News of the platform's impact was spreading rapidly. From India to Ethiopia, more and more countries were taking notice. Invitations began pouring in for Ethan and Maya to present their work on international stages. One invitation stood out: a personal letter from the United Nations inviting them to speak at the Global Education Forum in Geneva. The forum was an annual event attended by world leaders, philanthropists, tech innovators, and educators. It was the kind of global platform that could elevate their mission and open the doors to partnerships with governments and international organizations. Ethan immediately agreed to attend, and preparations began for what would be one of the most important moments in their journey. As they prepared for the presentation, Maya emphasized the importance of telling a story, not just about technology, but about the human lives transformed by it. "We need to show them the kids in the classrooms, the teachers who've never had access to such resources before, and how this platform is bridging impossible gaps," she said. Ethan nodded. "This isn't just about education. It's about hope, resilience, and equality, On the day of the forum, the Grand Hall in Geneva was buzzing with energy. Delegates from over 150 countries filled the seats, and representatives from global organizations like UNESCO, UNICEF, and the World Bank were in attendance. The stage was set with large screens and translation booths for the diverse audience. When Ethan stepped onto the stage, he paused for a moment, taking in the weight of the occasion. Then, he began. Years ago, a young boy saved me from a robbery. That moment of courage reminded me of something I had long forgotten: how one person's bravery can change the course of another's life. Today, I want to talk about bravery. Not the kind that comes from fighting off danger, but the kind that comes from fighting poverty, inequality, and the barriers to education that still affect millions of children. He walked across the stage, as videos of children in India and Ethiopia appeared on the screen behind him, laughing, learning, exploring their lessons with curiosity and joy. These children, many of whom had never used a computer before, are now accessing the same quality of education as students in the most advanced cities in the world. And they're doing it through solar-powered technology, offline capabilities, and localized content, because we listened, adapted, and believed that where you're born shouldn't determine what you can learn. The crowd was riveted. Ethan then invited Maya on stage, and together they shared detailed results, data, and personal stories from their pilot programs. They spoke about the partnerships, the training, the infrastructure innovations, and the overwhelming response from teachers and students. Then, they revealed their ambitious next step: a global access initiative. We aim to reach 10 million children in underserved communities within the next 3 years, Maya announced. But we can't do it alone. We need collaboration: governments, NGOs, businesses, and individuals, working together to bring education to every corner of the planet. The speech received a standing ovation. After the forum, leaders and organizations lined up to speak with Ethan and Maya. The president of an African nation offered to pilot the platform in his country. A European Development Bank pledged funding to scale to additional regions. Even major tech companies expressed interest in integrating their tools with the platform. Later that evening, Ethan stood on the balcony of the Geneva Hotel, looking out at the city lights reflecting in Lake Geneva. Maya joined him, a glass of tea in hand. "We've come a long way," she said. "And we're just getting started," Ethan replied. "What we're building now isn't just an education platform. It's a future where no child is forgotten." They clinked their glasses quietly in the cool night air. The mission was bigger than ever, but for the first time it felt truly possible. The days following the Global Education Forum were a whirlwind. Ethan and Maya's inboxes overflowed with messages from ministers of education, development agencies, and global tech firms. Media outlets published stories praising the platform's transformative impact. It was clear the world was listening, but nothing prepared Ethan for what happened next. One morning, as Ethan walked into the office, his assistant rushed to him. "Ethan, you have a direct call from the President of the United States." Ethan blinked in disbelief. "You're sure? It's a secure line. They're holding for you now." Ethan stepped into the conference room, closed the door, and picked up the phone. Calm, authoritative voice greeted him. "Mr. Blake, this is President Elaine Maddox. I watched your presentation in Geneva. You and your team have created something extraordinary. I'd like to speak to you about how we can support your mission and how we can implement your platform here in underserved parts of the United States." Ethan was stunned. For so long, his focus had been on countries with less infrastructure, assuming that the US wouldn't need such a platform. But the president's words revealed something deeper. Educational inequality existed everywhere, even in the most developed nations. "I appreciate your call, Madam President," Ethan replied. "We've always believed education is a universal right, not a luxury. If our platform can help American students who've been left behind, we'd be honored." President Maddox went on to explain that many rural and low-income urban communities in the US still lacked access to modern educational tools, especially after the setbacks caused by recent economic downturns. Teachers were stretched thin, and schools were underfunded. "We want to pilot your platform in select districts," she said. "We'll provide federal support to assist with training, infrastructure, and connectivity. But we need you to lead. This with the same passion and innovation you've shown elsewhere." After the call, Ethan relayed the news to Maya and the team. The office erupted in celebration, but also a renewed sense of responsibility. "This changes everything," Maya said. "We've proven we can work in the global south. Now we're bringing the same equity lens to our own backyard." They began mapping out the pilot program in the U.S., selecting regions across Mississippi, West Virginia, and parts of the Midwest where dropout rates were high and access to resources was limited. They partnered with local school districts, Native American tribal schools, and inner-city education programs. The challenge was different here. Unlike the infrastructure gaps in developing countries, the U.S. faced issues of policy, bureaucracy, and entrenched inequality. But Ethan and Maya approached it the same way they always had, with empathy, collaboration, and a deep commitment to listening. In Mississippi, Maya visited a rural elementary school where outdated textbooks were the norm. A teacher named Ms. Randall greeted her, skepticism in her eyes. "We've seen a lot of programs come and go," Ms. Randall said. "What makes yours different?" Maya handed her one of the tablets. "Let me show you." Within minutes, students were solving math problems on interactive screens, exploring reading modules with bright animations, and watching historical videos that brought lessons to life. The classroom buzzed with curiosity. "This," Ms. Randall said, her voice softening, "this could actually work." Back in the office, Ethan watched a live feed of students in West Virginia, using the platform for the first time. He thought of the boy who saved him that night, how one act of bravery had led to this growing global mission. And now, that mission was touching the heart of his own country. They were no longer just building a tool, they were building a bridge between worlds, between children, between hope and opportunity. In the midst of global expansion, partnerships, and a rising platform that was changing lives, Ethan found himself thinking more and more about the boy who started it all, the one who had risked everything to save him from the robbers years. It had been so long since that fateful night. The memory was clear. The quiet street, the masked men, and the fearless voice of a child who stepped out from the shadows to confront danger and protect a stranger. That boy had disappeared into the chaos, never asking for recognition or reward. Ethan had never learned his name. And yet, every step of this journey, every classroom lit up with solar-powered screens, every teacher trained, every child filled with hope, traced back to that boy's bravery. Ethan had always meant to find him, to thank him, but life had moved quickly, and the mission had consumed him, until now. With the platform's U.S. rollout underway, Ethan took a step back and called upon a private investigator he trusted. "Find him," Ethan said simply. "The boy who saved me, I need to know who he is." Weeks passed, and just as Ethan was preparing for another round of global meetings, he received a message. "We found him." His name was Leo Carter. He was now 17 years old, living in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. He had no idea the man he'd helped had become one of the most influential education advocates in the world, or that his small act of bravery had sparked a global movement. Ethan arranged to meet him quietly, without cameras or fanfare. When he arrived at the small home, Leo answered the door. He was taller now, lean and serious-eyed, with a quiet confidence that hadn't faded. "Do you remember me?" Ethan asked. Leo paused, studying his face. "Yeah. You were the man in the alley that night, the one the robbers were after." Ethan stepped forward. "I've been looking for you. You changed my life that night, everything I've done since. It started because of you." Leo looked confused. "I don't understand." Ethan smiled, then told him the story. The platform, the schools, the countries they'd reached, the president's call, the millions of children learning right now. All of it, because a boy had the courage to stand up to danger. Leo stood, frozen, his eyes wide. "I never thought I was just trying to help," he said softly. You did more than help, Ethan replied. You reminded me that courage isn't about size or strength. It's about choosing what's right when it's hardest. I've wanted to thank you properly for a long time. Ethan reached into his pocket and handed Leo a scholarship certificate, fully funded to any college of his choice, anywhere in the world. Leo's hands trembled as he took it. Are you serious? I'm serious, Ethan said. And there's more. I want you to be part of this platform's future. Join us, travel, learn, teach. You have more to offer this world than you know. Tears welled in Leo's eyes. For years he'd lived quietly, never telling anyone what he'd done that night he didn't need to. But now he realized his story had already touched millions. Ethan and Leo sat on the porch for hours, sharing dreams, memories, and hopes. The sun dipped behind the city skyline, but in that moment, everything felt bright. After their emotional reunion, Ethan invited Leo to visit the main headquarters of the education platform. It was a sleek, modern building. Glass walls, interactive demo rooms, and creative workspaces, buzzing with passionate engineers, designers, and educators. Leo stepped inside, his eyes wide, absorbing a world completely unlike his own. This is where your bravery led us, Ethan said, walking beside him. Ethan gave Leo a full tour, introducing him to the team. Maya greeted him warmly. So you're the one we've heard so much about. It's an honor. Leo smiled awkwardly. He wasn't used to attention, but he listened intently as team members showed him how the tablets worked, how lesson content was tailored for different regions, and how the impact was measured in real time. Everywhere he turned, Leo saw his bravery reflected in the eyes of children he had never met. Ethan then sat Leo down in a private meeting room. I don't want you to just be a symbol of how this started, Ethan said. I want you to be part of how it grows. How would you feel about going on your first mission, to see firsthand how the platform is changing lives? Leo's eyes lit up. Where would I go? Kenya, Maya replied, entering the room with a file. We just launched a pilot in a remote village outside Nakuru. The students there don't even have desks, but they have our tablets now. We want you to visit, see their world, and tell us how we can make it better. Would you go? Leo nodded. Slowly, a smile growing on his face. Yeah, I'd love that. A week later, Leo boarded a plane for the first time in his life. The journey to Kenya was long and surreal. Customs, layovers, new languages and sounds. But he soaked it all in with wide eyes and a curious heart. When they arrived in the village, the scene was humbling. Dusty roads, simple structures, barefoot, children chasing each other between trees. Yet, inside one small schoolhouse, a miracle was unfolding. Rows of students with glowing eyes tapped away at their tablets, immersed in a math game, giggling at animated characters, speaking English confidently as they practiced pronunciation drills. The teacher, Ms. Achieng, welcomed Leo and the team warmly. These tools are changing how we teach, she said. Before, we had nothing. Now the children asked to stay late after school. Leo sat with the kids, laughing with them, helping them navigate lessons. One young girl asked him, Are you the man who made this? Leo paused, then smiled. Not exactly, but I helped make it possible. That night, under the stars of rural Kenya, Leo stood outside his tent and looked up at the sky. Ethan joined him, handing him a warm drink. You belong here, don't you? Ethan said. Leo nodded. I thought I was just a street kid. But now, I see. Even the smallest choices matter, even I can matter. Ethan smiled. You already do. And this is just the beginning. Image prompt, 16.9 format. A vibrant scene in a rural Kenyan village. Children sit in a humble classroom with dirt floors and open windows, smiling as they use educational tablets. In the foreground, Leo, a 17-year-old boy with expressive eyes and casual clothes, sits among them, laughing and learning. The background shows acacia trees and a golden sunset over the savannah. Leo returned from Kenya forever changed. He had seen firsthand what access to education meant. Children who walked for miles barefoot just to attend school, who treated tablets like treasure, and who smiled despite the hardships that surrounded them. It awakened something deep in him, a desire to speak not only for himself, but for every child who had ever been forgotten. When he got back to headquarters, Maya and Ethan welcomed him like family. "You did well, Leo," Maya said proudly. "Your photos, your notes, you saw things we hadn't considered." But Leo had more than stories. He had a proposal. "I want to tell the world what I saw," Leo said. "The kids there, they need more than tools. They need people to care, and I think I can help them care." Ethan and Maya exchanged a glance. "Are you thinking of speaking publicly?" Ethan asked. Leo nodded. "Yeah, you've got engineers, developers, and leaders. But what about the kids? Someone who's lived through what they're living through. Someone they can see and say, 'That could be me. I want to be that voice.'" Moved by his conviction, they arranged for Leo to speak at an upcoming youth summit, hosted by the United Nations in New York. It was a stage few teens ever stood on, a gathering of young leaders, activists, and innovators from around the world. Leo stepped onto the grand stage. A hush fell over the room. Dressed simply, without notes, he spoke from the heart. "I'm not a genius, I'm not a leader, I'm not even a high school graduate yet. But I know what it feels like to be invisible. I know what it feels like to go to bed hungry and wake up scared. And I also know what it feels like to save someone and never know what came of it." He paused, eyes scanning the crowd. "I saved a man once, not because I was brave, but because I couldn't stand to see someone get hurt. That man went on to change the world. And then he found me and gave me the chance to help him do it." Behind him, a screen lit up with images from Kenya. Smiling students, dusty classrooms, proud teachers. Those kids don't need pity. They need opportunity. They need tools, yes. But more than that, they need to be seen. They need someone to say, "You matter." Thunderous applause filled the room. By the end of the summit, Leo's name was trending globally. He had touched hearts far beyond the stage. Young people around the world began sharing their own stories, some from refugee camps, others from inner cities, all echoing the same truth. Bravery isn't about fame. It's about showing up, speaking out, and never giving up. That night, Leo sat with Ethan on a rooftop overlooking Manhattan. "I was scared," Leo admitted, "but it felt right." "You spoke the truth," Ethan said, "and sometimes that's all it takes to move the world." Image prompt, 16.9 format. Leo stands on a brightly lit stage at the United Nations Youth Summit. Behind him, a large screen displays touching photos of children in Kenyan classrooms. The audience is diverse, filled with young leaders from around the world, all listening intently. The mood is powerful, emotional, and full of inspiration.